Oh, sometimes I get up to this pulpit and I wonder, should I really be here? It's not like I shouldn't be here, that I'm not scheduled or not, but it's like, should I really be here? I feel sometimes like the enforcement officers who police ministers might come crashing through the door and take me away, take me away as an imposter, not really belonging in this place. I used to have a dream. I think I had it more than once. It was after I'd finished graduate school, the department head would come to my thesis supervisor, and he would say, you let Neal graduate with that thesis, but it's really not good enough. It's not our standards in our department. You're going to have to make him do it again. So needless to say, I would wake up in a cold sweat wondering about that. I don't know, maybe you all have had a sense at some point in your life that you were putting something over on the others around you, maybe that you didn't belong in the place that you were in. Well, I've been told it has a name. It's called imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome. And it's estimated 70% of people experience that feeling of being an imposter at some point in their lives, according to a paper in a Journal of Behavioral Science. This idea that you've only succeeded due to luck and not because of your talents or your qualifications. A researcher named Valerie Young reminds me that institutionalized discrimination can play a major role in spurring imposter feelings. She says that the more people who look or sound like you, the more confident you feel. And conversely, the fewer people who look and sound like you, it can, and does for many people, impact their confidence. Now, I've read that at least 7 out of 10 of us here today have wondered if we will be found out. Now, I know you're looking around thinking, okay, now where are the 7 out of 10? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 7 out of 10 of us apparently have, discovered, fear that we'll discover we have pulled the wool over someone's eyes and we will be tossed out. Well, I will tell you that we are in good company. Canadian comedian Mike Myers, who I remember for his character in the Wayne World skits and movies, said that, quote, "I still believe the no-talent police will come and arrest me." And poet Maya Angelou said that, "I have written 11 books, but each time I think, they're going to find me out now. I have run a game on everybody, and they're going to find me out." For me, this imposter syndrome is linked to a deep, innate human need for belonging. Maybe you, like me, recall sitting through a Psychology 101 class and being regaled by the theories of Abraham Maslow and his theory about the hierarchy of needs. Well, according to this theory, belonging is a second level of human need, right after food, clothing, shelter, and safety. Some psychologists have argued that this human need to belong is absolutely fundamental and foundational to healthy life. They recommend that we each maintain some amount of lasting, positive, and significant relationships in our lives. And in order to meet our need for belonging, they say we should have frequent and positive interactions within a framework of long-term, stable care and concern. Yes, we have, as humans, a need for a sense of belongingness in our lives, a need to feel that we are part of something greater than ourselves. When I first decided I'd title this sermon Belongingness, I wasn't certain that belongingness was really a word. I thought maybe it'd be made up. I thought maybe, is this a fake word, kind of like truthiness? You know, that old Stephen Colbert word that he says that he had pulled right out of his keister. He explained at the time about truthiness that we're not talking about truth. We're talking about something that seems like truth, the truth we want to exist. Well, I thought maybe belongingness is the belonging that we want to exist, and maybe not, as the website, which is sometimes known for its own truthiness, but often helpful in sermon writing, you may have heard about it, Wikipedia, actually has an entry on belongingness. It's a word. And the definition would be belongingness is the human emotional need to be an accepted member of a group, whether it is family, friends, coworkers, a religion, or something else. People tend to have an inherent desire to belong, to be an important part of something greater than ourselves, greater than themselves. This implies a relationship that is greater than simple acquaintance or familiarity. The need to belong is the need to give and receive attention to and from others. Belonging is a strong, inevitable feeling that exists in human nature. I recall that maybe the first place that I felt a deep sense of my own belonging was around the kitchen table. For me, that table was a large piece of oak furniture, fairly heavy, it was round, had 4 chairs that went around it most days, and that held my parents and sister and I as we sat around that kitchen table most days. And on some days, that table would extend, you put leaves in it, or I think that's what you call those extra pieces that you keep in the closet until the family comes over, right? And you put that together and you extend that kitchen table to include more folks on those holy days. There at that table, I found unconditional love and a deep sense of belonging. Now, I know that this is not true for everyone in our families, though it was true for me. I wonder, about that kitchen table, and if that's why sometimes when I gather with others in their homes or in my home, we tend to gravitate towards the kitchen. There might be an entire house available, but we all find that the kitchen is a place that we feel comfortable and a sense of belonging. Now, I like to think that that's because indeed we do feel a sense of belonging. It may just because the food is there, but let me say that it is a place of comfort. First Nations poet Joy Harjo, in her poem, Perhaps the World Ends Here, describes the importance of the kitchen table. I'll read you her poem now. The world begins at a kitchen table, no matter what we must eat to live. The gifts of earth are brought and prepared, set on the table. So it has been since creation, and it will go on. We chase chickens or dogs away from it. Babies teethe at the corners. They scrape their knees under it. It is here that children are given instructions on what it means to be human. We make men at it, we make women. At this table we gossip, recall enemies, and the ghosts of lovers. Our dreams drink coffee with us as they put their arms around our children. They laugh with us at our poor falling down selves as we put ourselves back together once again at the table. This table has been a house in the rain, an umbrella in the sun. Wars have begun and ended at this table. It is a place to hide in the shadow of terror, a place to celebrate the terrible victory. We have given birth on this table and have prepared our parents' burial here. At this table, we sing with joy, with sorrow. We pray of suffering and remorse. We give thanks. Perhaps the world will end at the kitchen table while we are laughing and crying, eating of the last sweet bite. The kitchen table, for me, such a beautiful metaphor for a sense of belonging, a metaphor of a place and a people that satiate our need for belongingness. I love the way that Lois Fresco described the kitchen table in an essay in The Atlantic. She wrote that the table is a place of memory where we, whether because of the Proustian Madeleine or not, become aware of who we are and with whom we are. Around the table, all previous meals come together in every meal in an endless succession of memories and associations. Not only may we gain a sense of belonging in one moment, but in the endless succession of memories and moments that serve to ground us in a sense of belonging. No matter where I go, the belonging at the kitchen table can come with me. Just as an aside, I read the other day that apparently the sale of tables has decreased significantly in furniture stores. And in fact, the sale of plates has too. We are changing the way in which we eat. It can be seen in the grocery stores where the meals are packaged in a way that we can eat them maybe in front of our computer or in the car or other places, but maybe no longer around the table. Makes me wonder where we will continue to find that sense of belonging. I guess another place that I found a sense of belonging in my life was in religious community. Religious community like this. As a child, it was a place where I found adults that weren't my parents who loved me, who asked about my life, what I was doing, how was hockey practice, how did the speech contest go, all of those things, that they showed interest in me and made me feel as if I belonged. It is my hope and my ministry that children and adults alike find a place of belonging in this religious community. And as Aaron said, it doesn't always happen. We know that not all have felt they have belonged in this or other Unitarian Universalist communities. And our work for racial, economic, class, gender justice, to name a few, reminds us to continue to ask ourselves who does not feel that they have a seat at the metaphorical Unitarian Universalist table. And how do we do the internal work and external work to ensure that there is ever-expanding room at the table? This afternoon, I will join those who are participating in Beloved Conversations class that continue to engage in that work. The Beloved Commitments Task Force just presented their racism audit to our board this past week. And this document will guide us in our work of expanded belongingness. They write of becoming exuberantly multicultural, defining that as embracing the fullness of all identities here and recognizing the intersectionality of these efforts. One small way we do that is to introduce ourselves with our pronouns each morning. I hope that we all will engage in the recommendations of this important audit as the weeks and months come along. On a larger scale, when I travel to the U.S.-Mexico border a week from this Monday to join hundreds of other religious leaders from a mosaic of faiths to witness to the injustices on our border, we will be asking together who belongs in this nation, who is being excluded, and how do our varying religious traditions call us to work for justice and for belonging. And as I invite many of you to participate in addressing holiday cards, you can find them just outside the doors of Borton Hall, to incarcerated members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Larger Fellowship. I wanted to share with you one of those incarcerated members of the CLF, Jennifer T's reflection on belonging. She writes, "When I was released from prison the first time, I'd been away from society and my family for 10 years. I was incarcerated when I was 15, and as a young adult, suddenly thrust back out into the community, I felt bewildered and lost. My family was a great support, but the sense of not belonging was overwhelming. I remember sitting upstairs in the library at the college I was attending, staring out the window, watching the other students. I don't belong here, I used to think. Even in my family's living room, I still felt like I didn't belong. There's such a sense of isolation and loneliness in that. At least in prison, I felt like I wasn't alone, and that is where I returned. Yet this didn't stop this incredibly sad ache. Where do I belong? Jesus said, 'Seek and you will find.' And as I searched, I discovered I belonged in the unity of God. This discovery filled a deep longing, but I began to want a community of my own. I said, 'God, are you sure you accept me? I'm different. I'm a lesbian. I'm an ex-con. I believe you're in the wind, in classic poetry, in Jesus' suffering, and in Buddha's enlightenment.' God said, 'I'm sure.' Then I saw a flaming chalice. By chance and out of curiosity, researched its meaning. Now my belonging feels complete because God brought me to others that accept me as an outward sign, as proof of God's love and acceptance of me. However we may describe the holy, the sacred, the divine, the spirit of life, may we each know that we belong, and may it not only be our prayer but our deepest commitments that all feel a sense of belongingness at the table of life. May it be so.